Each Monday, I go over the biggest risers and fallers in average draft position, aka ADP, in the best ball markets. I'll discuss whether I'm buying or selling these players at their new prices and why. The idea is to get you up to speed very quickly on what's happening out there in drafts and how to adjust. Let's begin with 3 best ball risers from the last 7 days. Going to start with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is up 2.1 spots to 45 overall on Underdog. One of our bigger ranking discrepancies versus the market for the last month has been Jaguars' pass game. You can go listen to episode 730 for more details on that. But the bottom line is that Trevor Lawrence just ran bad last season, and the market is really reacting to that. I mean, Trevor Lawrence lost the most EPA to drop passes by a wide margin last year over Matthew Stafford and over number 3, Patrick Mahomes. I also think Trevor Lawrence was banged up for a lot of the year. Had the knee issue in October, high ankle in early December, concussion late in the year, shoulder late in the year. It was ugly. And I mean, the Jaguars have no concerns on Trevor Lawrence, gave him a 5-year extension worth $275 million last week. Lawrence and Joe Burrow are now tied for the highest paid quarterbacks in terms of average annual value. But anyway, all this brings me back to Christian Kirk, who I think will benefit from Calvin Ridley's departure. Not expecting Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. to earn as many targets as Ridley did, at least individually. And most importantly, in the red zone, I mean, Calvin Ridley piled up 26 red zone targets last season, third most in the NFL. Meanwhile, Christian Kirk only saw 5 red zone targets. And as much as I like Brian Thomas, and I do like Brian Thomas, I think those red zone numbers should regress positively for Christian Kirk. So yes, I am still in on Kirk here, but the market is finally wising up. He was going in the 60s not that long ago. We were at 43rd overall on Underdog. Now Christian Kirk's going 45th. We're still at 43 overall on Underdog. Better deal. I prefer Christian Kirk on full PPR DraftKings. We're well ahead of ADP there. It's down at 48.1. Second riser is another wide receiver. Going to talk about Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer is up 3.9 spots to 112 overall on Underdog. Palmer is also up 5.5 spots to 121 on DraftKings. Another wide receiver that the market simply didn't agree with us on initially. When I first started drafting, maybe a month or so ago, we were legit 30 or 40 spots ahead of ADP on Josh Palmer. And I know that people don't think Josh Palmer is very good, yada, yada. I get it. He's not a superstar. And at the wide receiver position, that does scare me because talent is what produces fantasy points, not opportunity. But I don't want to sit here and say that Palmer is definitely bad either. I mean, he's earned 168 targets, 6.2 per game over the last 2 seasons, even though Mike Williams was healthy for most of 2022 and Keenan Allen played in 23 games over the last 2 seasons. Tej Seth noted that Palmer was 11th in the entire NFL last year in yards per route run versus man. But I think the real reason Palmer was going so late is because people are taking the Jim Harbaugh / Greg Roman won't throw the football stuff. They're taking that stuff too far. I definitely agree. I think they're going to be very run-oriented, the Chargers. I mean, Keenan Allen and Big Mike Williams were dumped. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa stayed. They passed on wide receiver in favor of Joe Alt at number 5 overall in the draft. Long history of Harbaugh and Roman being very run heavy. But these guys aren't total donkeys. And unlike these donkey teams that ran too much in recent memory, such as Falcons, Steelers, Bears, I mean, you kind of get it because they had Desmond Ridder, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields at quarterback. The Chargers have Justin Herbert. I mean, Justin Herbert is still a very, very, very good NFL quarterback. They're going to use him. And so I like getting Palmer, Herbert as a secondary stack. I think the price tags on both are really reasonable. But the main issue for me on Palmer is that I'm taking running back in that range where Palmer goes so often. He has a 121 ADP on DraftKings, and that's where I'm taking, Javonte Williams, Trey Benson, Tajee Spears, Brian Robinson, Blake Corum, Jerome Ford, Chase Brown, etc. The kind of running back rooms that I like to set up in best ball. But on teams that I do need wide receiver there, if I do need it, I'm fine with Josh Palmer. Last riser to mention today is Broncos running back Jaleel McLaughlin. Jaleel McLaughlin up 4.8 spots to 161 overall. Javonte Williams, I mean, there's been a lot of negatives around Javonte Williams and a lot of hype around Jaleel McLaughlin over the last week. And I think all of this stems from one take from one guy, Cecil Lammey, who covers the Broncos and is often out there with some fiery takes, said the top Denver running back looks like Jaleel McLaughlin. Will Javonte Williams even make the team? And then all the aggregators, ML football and Dov and whatever the rest of these donkeys are, they all run with it like it's news, right? Let's pull back for a second. Why would Javonte Williams not make the team? Yes, he was not great last year, but the Broncos know he likely wasn't at 100% off the ACL, and team dynamics were just a nightmare. Offensive situation was a disaster. And yes, McLaughlin was awesome in space. He was electric. Peyton likes to throw to running back. So does Bo Nix. But let's be real here. McLaughlin is a former UDFA who is 5'7", 187. I'm not saying he's dust. I like him, and he definitely flashed in a big way last year. But let's just not go too far. I remain very confident Javonte Williams will be the clear running back one, and McLaughlin can play the 2-minute drill to clear pass downs. This stuff from OTAs, of course Jaleel McLaughlin's dominating in OTAs. All the small, fast guys do when they're practicing 7-on-7 in shorts. So look, I'm more interested in McLaughlin on DraftKings, where I get 20 roster spots and it's full PPR. We're slightly ahead of market on him there at 167 overall. But on Underdog, McLaughlin is not something that I normally do unless it's part of Bo Nix emergency backdoor stacks. All right. Let's get to this week's fallers. Aaron Jones is down 3.6 spots to 79 overall. Correspondingly, Ty Chandler is up a few spots, at least on DraftKings, to 147.5 overall. And I very much agree with the gap closing between these two guys. The whole reason the Packers had enough of Aaron Jones was because he was seemingly always banged up. Everyone knows Aaron Jones is an awesome player, but now he'll be 30 years old in December, missed 6 games last year. And in his career, he's never really been a workhorse anyways. He's never had more than 236 carries in a season. So yeah, we expect Ty Chandler to play a decent amount in what is one of the NFL's most pass catcher friendly offenses. And Ty Chandler was awesome down the stretch last year. I mean, Vikings coaches have been outspoken about that. So I take Chandler a ton in my zero hero RB builds, right there in that same range as Kendra Miller, Marshawn Lloyd, Zach Charbonnet. As for Aaron Jones, though, I simply think the market was pricing him as the clear alpha. And I just don't agree with that. We're still 14.6 spots behind ADP on DraftKings with Aaron Jones. And where he goes, I mean, for me, I think I prefer Kenneth Walker. I think I prefer David Montgomery. But in reality, I don't take any of these guys, any of these running backs in this tier that much. It's just much more likely I'm going wide receiver or tight end in that range with guys like Kyle Pitts, Chris Godwin, Xavier Worthy, George Kittle, DeAndre Hopkins, Evan Ingram, etc. And then worry about running back a little bit later. Second faller is Jackson Smith-Njigba. He is down 2.3 spots on DK to 94th overall. Pretty surprised JSN would be falling. I actually think that this is related to a shoulder thing he picked up during OTAs, like a small shoulder injury. But the Seahawks already said that it's minor. It's not a big deal. He's going to be fine. Now, DraftKings did add a questionable tag to Jackson Smith-Njigba on the app. So I bet that is causing some people to hesitate to pull the trigger on him. I think that's a little micro edge. I mean, just caused me to go back through and look at other guys they have with Q tags who I think are interesting. Breece Hall has a Q tag on DraftKings. Chris Olave, Xavier Worthy, George Kittle. So just keep an eye on that. On JSN specifically, yeah, his rookie year was not great. Definitely had some flashes, but a 1.32 yards per route run, I mean, that's scary. Pathetic. 8 out of 6.4 yards was absolutely dreadful. But I'm hesitant to put all that on JSN. I think that was more on Shane Waldron, who was the offensive coordinator last year. certainly not impressed with his schemes. Now they have Ryan Grubb as the offensive coordinator, was University of Washington's offensive coordinator from 2022 to last season. Obviously, pass game was on fire, especially last year with Penix, Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk. So, yeah, JSN is not a comfortable click, but given Tyler Lockett will be 32 in September, the offensive coordinator upgrade, simple fact that JSN was 21 years old last year and still has an awesome profile overall, JSN is a guy that I want to close my eyes and bet on. So hopefully that Q tag stays up and he keeps falling. Last faller today is Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze down 1.7 spots on DK to 79 overall. And I think this is all about people being afraid of target competition. Let's put it this way. Marvin Harrison went 4th in the draft. He's going 14th overall in fantasy. Malik Neighbors went 6th in the draft. He's going 31st overall. Rome Odunze went 9th in the real NFL draft. He's going 79th overall in fantasy. And so the assumption with Rome is that Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are going to soak up too many targets for Rome to even get a real chance. I'm just not sure I buy that. I mean, are we certain that Keenan Allen at 32 years old is going to play in 2 wide receiver sets? Or will he be slot only in 3 wide receiver? I also think the Bears will be running a ton of 11 personnel, allowing all 3 of these guys, plus Cole Kmet, to be on the field a ton. The other point I wanted to make on Rome is that, are we sure he can't simply earn his way into a bigger target share than people think? I know the tape bros, the college scouts, many had Rome right there with Harrison and Neighbors for the top wide receiver in this class. And by the way, I should add that our rankings, especially for best ball, are doing our best to weight end of season more. It's just more important. That's when you need to have your super team forming. And so that's why a lot of the data favors rookies and wide receivers and rookie wide receivers and all the best ball stuff. So overall, I understand why Rome Odunze is falling, but the historicals on wide receivers who go in the top 10 is just such a smash. His archetype is such a smash in best ball. And so similar to JSN, Rome Odunze is a bet on talent I want to make if he is indeed falling. That is going to do it for this week's Market Monday. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you have not yet subscribed to the EstablishTheRun.com podcast, be sure you are by searching for it anywhere podcasts are found. Be sure to follow me on Twitter for a ton more player takes at Adam Levitan. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube. It's totally free. Ton of content on there that does not hit the pod feed. Last Friday, I did a Underdog Dalmatian draft, live streamed it, talked through it. I think a lot of you will enjoy that if you check that out on YouTube now. For producer Luke, for producer Ryan, for editor Jackson, for Jerry, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.